so this organ was built in 1868 for a church in Chester, New Jersey. It was the Presbyterian Church of Chester. Country church, typical post-Civil War instrument. And about 15 years ago, the church contacted me and asked me if I wanted the organ. So I bought it for a very small price. They replaced it with some digital organ, and they were outgrowing this small instrument. But I said, it's perfect. It's this beautiful instrument. It was untouched. It still has the original hand-pumped feeder bellows. The pipes are all in their original pitch, and nothing was destroyed. So I took it. And it's been a labor of love so far. Although the organ is restored, of course the case is not restored, but it will be restored. And I've had this instrument for sale on and off. You know, people are interested in it, and fortunate to have Artis here who knows the literature of the period, or is exploring the literature of the period, and it's perfect for this instrument. So I was very pleased when she came to offer to play it. So it's sitting in my shop. It has the, as I said, the original hand-pumped bellows, and you've seen Hyro pumping away. So this is a typical instrument. It's a one manual with pedal. So it's 7 stops plus the pedal 16-foot board. It's typically, they had 2 strings. Here we go, Dulciana. Corallophone, a little stronger. Over here we have the Clarinet Flute, which was a typical stop that the Odells would use. Many of their early instruments. It basically a wooden flute with a stopper and a hole through the top to give it some extra harmonics. Four-foot principal. And a 2-foot. There you go. This kind of instrument was used typically for playing hymns on Sunday and a small amount of literature. It certainly wasn't meant for playing big Vidor pieces or French Romantic music or anything like that. It's a hymn organ. Simple post-Civil War period. Anyway, when I got this organ, it was a mess. Didn't work. But I started to restore the instrument, and every time I had a break in the normal work day, we'd take a piece, restore it, put it back, and finally we had enough pieces to put it together and start voicing it. And Eric Mayer, my pipe maker, he's brilliant at pipe making and repairs. We did some work on the pipes. They were not in bad shape, but they needed some body and fender work. And then I voiced it, and so it is what it is. It's a mild organ, very small-scaled, mildly voiced organ. I'll remove this and show you the tracker action. This is the key action here, which works with stickers and a backfall, and they pull pallets down at the back of the wind chest These stops work this way. They pull on, it's a slider chest, of course. Pull the sliders on and off, turn on whatever stop you choose. The keys are original, they're all ivory. There's some cracking in the front, but that's part of the restoration process. And I've restored many of these instruments from this period by Odell, and this is the first one I've seen with the music desk intact. This was their standard. The Odells worked for a company called Ferris and Stewart. This is also a Richard Ferris design. This is all walnut. The case is entirely pine, and originally it was painted brown, and we'll see what we're going to do with that. The front pipes you see here are just dummy pipes. They're for decoration, and they're also going to get restored. It needs a home. It needs a home. I think this organ, we're in my workshop here. It's very dead acoustically, but in a normal church sanctuary with nice acoustics, it just blossoms. It's amazing what the difference is. I think this organ would be beautiful as a chapel instrument or as a choir organ in a bigger church, large organ in back, small choir organ in front. It does have expression shades. They're the hitch down type, so it's either on or off.
How much skill did the organists of that period need to play this instrument?
Yeah, actually, probably not much. Most of them were, studied piano as a kid, and they played in church on Sundays. It's not very demanding. Mm-hmm. Many times the people that would play were there for years and years. They're out in the country somewhere. It's a gig, So, yeah. As far as the repertoire for this period, although I have a music degree, I didn't study much Dudley Buck at Manhattan School of Music.
Yeah.
But I leave that to you.
Right.
And this is, I think, important. We rarely hear these pieces now played on the instruments they were intended for. This period, 1868, led up to the so-called orchestral period, and then electronics in organ building, and it got possible to make organs bigger and easier to play, and we got further and further away from what an organ really is supposed to be, I think. But it was an experimental period. It lasted until about the 30s, I suppose, with E.M. Skinner and his orchestral organs. I should mention that there were probably 350 of these little tracker organs, some bigger than others. But the Odell Company was one of the best back in the 1850s, 60s, 70s. I think they started to decline around the turn of the century. They were building about 10 organs a year, but there were electric action. And then, of course, what happened in 1929, after they built their new sophisticated organ shop in Mount Vernon, the Depression hit, and they were out of business, and they maintained organs around the area, and that was about it. So there are very few of these instruments left. I think the last count was about 70, spread all over the place, mostly in the New York metro area. And this one is particularly interesting because, as I mentioned before, it's got the original feeder pump bellows. So we did build a curtain valve box where we can hook up an electric blower for practical reasons. But we of course kept the feeder bellows. It's all been restored. I think there were probably just a handful of organs like this with the original bellows. What the Odell Company used to do is take the organs out, re-leather the bellows, and tear out the feeder mechanisms, and they put an electric blower in. So many of them, and many instruments ended up in the dumpster, unfortunately. As far as I know, this is so typical of the voicing style for that period. You might find an organ by Hook or Hook and Hastings that's a little stronger. I think their tonal palette was a little more varied, but of course with the sizes of the instruments, the Odells had a couple of 3-manual organs. They had a little of everything. But in this particular instrument, the scaling is very small. The open diapase and stop is fairly normal size, but everything else is kind of small. And that was the style. It's of basically the Victorian period. It was typical.